Fundamentals of the economy are strong. In fact, we've had so many business groups, and they'll tell you, through January, February, the economy was rising. And the Atlanta Fed GDP now is showing 3% or 3.1%. We don't have the March data in yet. Yes, I believe that. And I think, again, prior policies on low taxes and regulations and trade and oil and energy have helped enormously. I believe this is a short-term problem. I believe it's a matter of weeks and months. It is not a matter of years. And regarding the president, I was with him this morning. We had our G7 teleconference meeting. You haven't asked me about that, but he was very calm about the market, and it is what it is. We think it's going to get better, but that's, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Keep telling you nobody knows. They're doing the best they can, but uncharted territory here. No question about it. We're in a whole different situation than we've ever been in before. And the usual tools, the government, the Fed and these other monetary policy instruments that we have, and the Fed's the big one. The Fed fired its bazooka, and coronavirus was kind of like, yeah, not gonna do anything with that one. So now what happens? Well, it looks like they're actually talking about the possibility of putting cash into Americans' pockets very quickly. My friends, this is kind of like the freedom dividend that Andrew Yang talked about, except this is an extreme measure. I understand that, but people are talking about it. Mnuchin's a smart guy. He's one person who even anti-Trump people in the world of finance that I've talked to, people that hate Trump, they say, well, Mnuchin, he's a smart dude. He understands government. He understands finance, and he understands how the government plays a role in the financial markets. And so Mnuchin said, look, maybe we've got to get money into people's hands, $1,000, but it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be for a lot of people. How do you distribute that? What do you do for people who don't have bank accounts? What do you do for people who don't have ID? They're going to show up and say, give me my check for $1,000 for this week. It's not just going to be for people that are already on welfare rolls, or it's going to be for everybody. Right? It's going to be for a lot of really hardworking people that, they didn't do anything wrong. The fact that restaurants are shutting down, the fact that we're being told that we can't do any economic activity right now, that's not the fault of anybody, period. It's not anyone's fault right now. They're going to say it's Trump's fault. And notice, again today, and sometimes I say things, team, more as a reminder to myself on the show than even me trying to express something necessary for all of you to hear, but I try to keep it as nonpartisan as I can for as long as I can on this show. I do my best because I think it's more important right now that we focus on what's happening and we focus on how to prevent a mass casualty incident. But also, we're going to have to start looking at this like, how do we balance keeping our economy alive? If the economy completely collapses, if we go through the floor on this thing, we're going to have all kinds of problems apart from this virus. I don't like to take this position, or I'm not saying that this means, we shouldn't do the things we're doing. I'm advocating we got to give the government 15 days. But if we go through 15 days and you've got, still fewer casualties than you would see in a tough flu season, I'm not saying this will happen. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just pointing out the decision tree, the decision pathways that we'll face. If you go through 2 weeks of this and everyone's feeling the economic pain and also the stir craziness that's going to start setting in, right? We can't live our normal lives. Our lives are being put on pause by this. I'll talk to you about things we can do in quarantine later that, in some ways, this is a weird way to think about it, but maybe take advantage of the time that you have to yourself at home without the obligations of normal life. That'll come later on in the show. So we talk about what video games we should play, what movies we should watch. But if they're not, people are going to get to a point where they say, I'm not going to live my life this way with the government telling me that we can't do anything anymore because I think that this isn't worth it. That we just have to deal with the reality that, some people are going to get sick, some people are going to die. That's where we are. That mentality will become widespread quickly. And the government's going to have to be very nimble about saying, all right, look, our risk tolerance has changed. Now, if we go 2 weeks from now and you have, and we're going to see We have instant communication all over social media, never mind even just the normal media. We're all going to be able to find out because this stuff will all go viral. You know, if all of a sudden grandma and grandpa are waiting in an emergency room for 12 hours when they can barely breathe, and then they're being told there's no ventilator for them at a major metropolitan hospital or a major regional hospital, people are going to say, okay, we got to keep this social distancing thing going a long time. And, you know, the economic fallout from this is something that we probably have to deal with. But if that's not the case, and if it feels like you're going to have people that push back against the government. And this is combustible. It is fissile. It is, we're on the edge here a little bit more than I think a lot of people realize. So, okay, giving people money, $1,000, will that do anything? One-off $1,000? Not if this is going to last 60 to 90 days. There's no one in America for whom $1,000 over the next, if they have no income, $1,000 over the next 60 to 90 days means they can meet all their obligations. It's not possible. So it would have to be a lot more money than that, and it means we're going to run up that federal credit card. There are people who are going to say, you know, this is why we shouldn't be running up deficits. And they're right. How many times have I told you on the show? I know nobody wants to hear this. I know nobody. By the way, I thought about this yesterday. Not that this is like a pat myself on the back situation, because really, who cares? But I remember I was asked in roll call, I think, and we could track it down because we have transcripts of the show. I think it was maybe in, the last quarter of last year, what really worries me. And I was like, climate change is for idiots. Pandemic disease is a really big problem. This has been there. Those of us who pay attention to actual science know this has been a risk that we are running as a society for a long time. But all right, so now we get back to what we do about this, what the monetary moves will be by the government. They really should. I mean, Tucker Carlson talked about this last night on his show, and you got to give Tucker credit. I do. Everyone knows I like Tucker's show. I also think I appreciate that they have me on, but also I think it's just a really good show. I think that Tucker is a free thinker who does a lot of really important and insightful, particularly with his monologues, important and insightful things. And he's been saying, take it seriously, guys, take it seriously. This is real. Get ready for it. Some other very big voices in conservative media have been a little too dismissive. There's a component of this that has to be addressed, and maybe something I can address more later, where we're looking at why do people not trust the media? Because the media is not trustworthy. So when someone who is dishonest lies about their intentions, lies about their motivations, and you've caught them over and over and over again, this is the media cries wolf scenario that some of us had been worrying about. Like, I do wish that there was a cable news network out there that was completely neutral, that we really could believe was neutral, or that was just nonpartisan. That's a better way of saying it. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. You have Fox as a counterbalance to the left-wing insanity, but Fox is mostly in primetime opinion shows. There are some neutral journalist shows on there that do a very good job of being fair to the facts, but I digress. Okay. The economics of this are going to get very, very tricky. What could turn this whole thing around? A vaccine, a cure? I'm very pessimistic about this. Just going to tell you. There's a lot of media coverage of this right now. I'll tell you why. Here's what Trump said yesterday about where we are with the vaccine. Play 3.
I'm also pleased to report today that a vaccine candidate has begun the phase 1 clinical trial. This is one of the fastest vaccine development launches in history. Not even close. We're also racing to develop antiviral therapies and other treatments, and we've had some promising results, early results, but promising, to reduce the severity and the duration of the symptoms. And I have to say that our government is prepared to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, we're doing.
Now, therapeutics, as they're called, essentially treatments, pharmacological treatments for this virus, that's the more likely near-term game changer we could have. If you can just create something that slows down the disease progression enough that you don't need people put on ventilators so that they have something that is artificially breathing for them, which is what the big problem is right now with COVID-19, Wuhan virus. That would be a game changer. Vaccine, 12 to 18 months out, my friends, if we're on lockdown for the next 12 to 18 months, we're not going to have an economy. I mean, we can't do that. So it would be nice, but also keep in mind that maybe the vaccines they have are not that effective. I'm also a believer in we should put out a bounty because it's going to be the private sector. It's going to be the private sector that figures out what the cure for this will be. I mean, Dr. Fauci's out there saying, look, we're moving very fast on the vaccine. That's encouraging, but I don't think anybody wants to be told to shelter in place for the next 12 months. Play 6.
The vaccine candidate that was given the first injections for the first person took place today. You might recall when we first started, I said it would be 2 to 3 months. And if we did that, that would be the fastest we've ever gone from obtaining the sequence to being able to do a phase 1 trial. This has been now 65 days, which I believe is the record. What it is, it's a trial of 45 normal individuals between the ages of 18 and 55. The trial is taking place in Seattle. There will be 2 injections, one at 0 day, first one, then 28 days. There will be 3 separate doses, 25 milligrams, 100 milligrams, 250 milligrams, and the individuals will be followed for 1 year, both for safety and whether it induces the kind of response that we predict would be protective. And that's exactly what I've been telling this group over and over again. So it's happened. The first injection was today.
That's excellent, except we're 12 to 18 months away from you being able to walk into your local doctor's office or drugstore and get something in your arm that realistically will prevent you from getting this disease. So it's good information to have, but it's not going to change the reality of right now. And even President Trump is saying the economic, we have 2 major areas of vulnerability, the population getting infected with this, right? Just the pandemic nature or the pandemic that we're going through. And then we also have the economic fallout. And these 2 things are very obviously intimately related, but they're also separate issues and have to be dealt with and not exactly the same policies and proposals. But Trump, who is usually very upbeat, and I appreciate that he's upbeat, but I'd also say for people that are going to start, you're going to hear a lot of trashing of Trump. He didn't, I actually dealt with this a little bit. I've mentioned this many times, the Bill Maher show. Before we even knew what was going on, they were saying Trump is awful. He's an idiot. He doesn't care about people dying, which is just Trump derangement lunacy. But we're going to see European governments get crushed by this. It's going to be really bad for them. Are they all incompetent too? Are they all a bunch of, trust fund, porn star dating, evil Russia collusion trader? I mean, all this nonsense they say about Trump. Is it true about all these other world governments too? No. I mean, this is the unseen challenge that has come for this administration, the unforeseeable challenge. But Trump realizes that for the economy, this is a problem. Play clip 10.
Stock market took another hit today. Is the U.S. economy heading into a recession?
Well, it may be. We're not thinking in terms of recession. We're thinking in terms of the virus. Once we stop, I think there's a tremendous pent-up demand, both in terms of the stock market and in terms of the economy. And once this goes away, once it goes through and we're done with it, I think you're going to see a tremendous surge.
That's going to be a national celebration. I mean, it's going to be, I think, it'll be like those photos you see, from Times Square and, sailors coming home and everything from right after World War II. It won't be on quite that same scale, perhaps, but it's going to be a little reminiscent of that. We're going to have people that just feel like the exultation. Anyway, it'll be there, but we're not there yet, so I don't want to get too ahead of it. The celebratory margarita that producer Mark and I are going to have on the streets of Tribeca when this thing passes, it's months away. Maybe 6 months away. So we have to keep an eye on what's going on here. The fact that our leadership, some of them seem to take this seriously, and as I've been saying, that's a good thing. That's what I expect. And irrespective of party, I plan to do my part to try to bring attention to those who are making the right moves and aren't viewing this as just a political football to throw around. Here's what Governor Cuomo said about President Trump and Vice President Pence. Play 7.
We have had a phenomenal increase in testing. We've been able to use our laboratories. Our emergency management team has done a very good job of reaching out to our state labs, getting them on track, getting them coordinated. Our testing numbers are way up, as you'll see. Next week, by the end of this week, we think we're going to be up to about 7,000 tests per day, which is an exponential increase of what we have done. I made the suggestion to the Vice President. I made it to the President. I often tell you when I am unhappy with the federal response to the state. The fairness dictates that kudos where kudos are due, and here the Vice President and the President responded very quickly. So I want to thank them for that.
That's right. Balls and strikes. No time for games, no time for nonsense here. And so I appreciate that Governor Cuomo's being an adult about this. Governor Newsom of California has been an adult about this. These are super libs who usually I'd be fighting tooth and nail on policy issues. Too much at stake here. Too important to get this right. And they should be praised for doing what's right, saying what they should be saying under the circumstances, and so that's where we are. Now let's talk about CDC and testing. So we've been told from the beginning by people, especially those who want to criticize the administration at every opportunity, listen to the experts, listen to the experts. Where's the CDC? Where's the NSC pandemic office? And I've been telling you because I actually know something about the NSC, because I'm ex-CIA and I used to deal with the NSC on a regular basis. I had friends at the NSC. In fact, one of my friends from the NSC is now a Fox News host, or correspondent. I go way back from the at the NSC. The story that we've heard is that somehow Trump is responsible for the lag in testing, that they weren't taking this seriously, so there was a lag in testing. That's just not true. Trump turned around and said, okay, CDC, let's go. World Health Organization, and this is from the Washington Post doing a story, investigative story on what happened with the testing levels, because, it is an abomination how slow they were getting those tests out. And I'm going to move to the whole, where are we with respirators, masks, and all these things. We are the most mighty economic engine the world has ever seen. You're going to tell me we can't get enough masks for people that are in hospitals, for our doctors and nurses? I'm sitting around with a supercomputer in my hand, and I feel like I could order 10 more of them. They'd be here tomorrow. We can't get enough surgical masks done? This is a reminder. There's a lot of time for the politics here. I'm going to try to limit my discussions of them, but China makes most of our antibiotics, makes most of our medical devices. We really think that's a great idea, huh? Now we're seeing it's not such a great idea. Just like we're also seeing with Canada locking down its borders, that borders are real. And it's not racist to have borders. No, it's sane to have borders.
And healthcare workers around America can be absolutely certain that the president and our entire team are going to continue to put the health of America first and put first our healthcare workers across this country that are meeting the needs of the people of our country.
We got to get them masks. We got to give them ventilators. We got to make sure they have the tools they need to do the job and the tools they need to stay safe. A big part of understanding this in the early days was testing. What went wrong with testing? The CDC. The CDC has in place plans for pandemics, and that's irrespective of who the president is. That's just the nature of that $7 billion a year federal agency. There's also the NIH, the National Institutes of Health. You have these federal government, and they exist for this, for now. And they exist so that we could get testing done quickly, so we could better react to and respond to hotspots of Wuhan virus. And this is now a moment in time where we say, what exactly happened here? The CDC was slow. The CDC was slow because they have all these regulations and they have to approve things for labs. And there was some mistake in the design of their test. And then there was a problem in the manufacturing, and CDC messed up. Now, we don't have too much time to sit around and trying to kick the CDC because guess what? We need them. But this would be something like if the president said, all right, let's call in an airstrike. And he says, let's fire a bunch of Tomahawk missiles from a bunch of cruisers that we've got. Let's fire off Tomahawk missiles. And the Navy goes, okay, here we go. And they fire them. And then they all just go about 50 feet and they land in the ocean because there was a design flaw. Because, Lockheed or Raytheon or whoever makes Tomahawk missiles, I don't even know, didn't design them properly. That's not on the president. We have this very, very expensive. Now, of course, our military is one of the few things our federal government gets right. But, this is what happened. The CDC messed up, and the CDC had all these regulations in place, and all these other labs were saying, okay, well, we can do this test. And the CDC said, oh, no, we got to make sure that it's safe before you can do it. Or, we got to make sure that it fits with the regulations, whatever. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. So this is, this is where the truth does matter. And the truth is that the CDC fell down on the job here. And everybody knows. But you're going to be lied to about that. They're going to lie to you about this one. Guaranteed. They're going to say that this is, for political reasons, they're going to claim that Trump wasn't taking it seriously, that the lack of testing from the CDC was, or lack of testing that was possible was the administration's fault, when in reality, the reason there weren't the tests that there should have been in the time period that they should have had them was because the CDC messed up. And that's what was going down. That's what was really happening here. So let's just understand that. Let's be clear about that. Now, there are elections that are supposed to take place today for the primary. You have the following story. Ohio Supreme Court allows delay to election primary. This is pretty crazy. Early Tuesday, the Ohio Supreme Court denied a legal challenge to the state delaying the primary. A candidate in Wood County had filed the action Monday, alleging the delay of the primary violated election laws. Only 4 justices participated in the ruling, which was issued without an opinion. After the court ordered the state to respond by 1:30 a.m., other states quickly filed the motion to dismiss. The justices cast their votes before 4 a.m. So, I guess we are not going to have a Democrat primary today. I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. I mean, you have the following states that are involved in this. You have, let's see, voters in 3 states are going to head to the polls today. I mean, look, no one's been paying attention to this even. Ohio has postponed, but Arizona, Florida, and Illinois have people heading to the polls today despite the coronavirus pandemic. And, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine announced that the polls would not open despite a judge's ruling that the election must go on. So, this is going to start affecting, where this is going, right? I think we all understand this right off the bat. They're going to say, the libs, the Democrats, I know this is getting a few steps ahead of where we are. If the Democrat doesn't end up winning, they're going to say the election's illegitimate. It's already, you can count on it right now. You can count on it being the final narrative if Trump wins re-election. Oh, the primary was messed up because of the pandemic, and they're going to say that Republicans, exerted influence on it in some way, or even though these are decisions being made by Democrats. It's kind of like when we hear all about the sexism of not electing Elizabeth Warren, not just president, but not electing Elizabeth Warren as the candidate for the Democrats. And I sit here, I'm like, 60% of Democrat voters are women. Democrats are the ones voting in their primary. They didn't elect Elizabeth Warren. Why am I being lectured about sexism as a Republican? That doesn't really make much sense. I don't really get that. I don't really agree with that one. So, but Elizabeth Warren's still out there playing politics at this moment in time. Play clip 5.
No, I think that it was absolutely irresponsible of the Senate leader to do that. He ultimately called everyone in for a vote tonight, a vote that did not occur because he worked out a deal. He had a problem in his own party, a deal that could have been worked out last week. And we have still not moved forward on the coronavirus bill. This makes no sense at all. It's as if he has no sense of urgency about this problem and no sense of what to do. You started this by asking me, do I feel better that Trump has at least admitted that there's a problem? Sure, but it's time to act. Yeah. We should have been acting months ago. And if that message still has not arrived with the president or with Mitch McConnell, then we're in real trouble.
What were the Democrats doing 2-3 months ago? Does anybody remember what the Democrats were completely focused on? December, January. What were they really? I feel like that's right. Their psycho sham impeachment of the President of the United States. In fact, they were going through that impeachment proceeding. Oh, gee, Mitt Romney showing us how strong he is for America. They were going through that while the president was calling together a task force to deal with coronavirus. And I remember CNN, among other places, ridiculing the president while he was being impeached for just nothing. I mean, the whole thing was a preposterous joke, a disgrace to constitutional powers and separation of powers. The whole thing was just appalling and so dumb. But they were mad at the president because the coronavirus task force wasn't diverse enough. Oh, that's what they were really worried about. This is bad news, my friends. So let's not, if we're going to start playing the point fingers and blame game, let's be honest about what was really happening. The president blocked flights from China. Probably should have blocked flights from Europe too, but we didn't know how bad it was going to be in Europe. The president blocked flights in China when he was told that was, a bad thing to do and shouldn't do it. And now we realize that definitely helped us out tremendously with this pandemic. The president's done everything that he realistically can do up to this point and is doing what the experts have been telling him to do. And now you get Democrats that want to blame not just Trump, but also, and act like he wasn't taking this seriously. How is he not taking it seriously? By trying to keep people calm while they're making maneuvers behind the scenes to deal with the crisis? It's absurd. I mean, you've got journalists that think that when the president says, look, we've got this under control, he doesn't mean that the virus is gone and we don't have to worry about it. He's saying we're doing everything we can. We have our end of the situation under control. But journalists make him explain that because they're so obsessed with it. Trump lies. Even now, even when people are really worried, even when we're wondering if mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, you're anybody in your life and those of you who are in the high, I know a lot of you listening to this now are over 60 or over 70, and you're worried, and I understand why you're worried. And I want to do everything I can to spread the word, to give the best information possible and encourage government officials to make the smartest decisions possible, because I want all of us to come through this okay. And part of that, by the way, is also not even ending up in the ICU with a tube down your throat. I mean, people keep talking about the mortality rate. Being in the ICU for 2 or 3 months is going to be a horrible and traumatic experience. We want to avoid people getting this who can have complications. And younger people, and there's going to be more and more stories about this. There are people in their 20s and 30s who get this, and they're in really bad shape. There are people who I remember Bree Payton from The Federalist. She got H1N1, and she was an amazing young woman, and I used to do work with her at the Hill, and she was a writer at The Federalist. She was gone because she got H1N1. She was gone in 24 hours. Young, healthy, amazing woman. Gone. So that was a less dangerous disease than this. Now, most people get H1N1 and don't die. Most people will get this and don't die. But just because you're young and healthy doesn't mean that this is something that you never know how your immune system is going to respond to this. You never know what the reality is going to be. So we're just got to keep that in mind, man. We've got some tough weeks ahead. Keep your shields high. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay frosty. We're going to be all right. But man, it's going to be rough out there for a while. All right, we also need to look at the lighter side of this sometimes. This is a nurse from Tennessee who, I don't know if she listens to the Buck Sexton show, but we have the same feeling when it comes to the credit card pad that you have to push, write the little signature, push. It's like the last thing you want to be doing when there's a pandemic is touching that little pad that everyone's been touching all day. Everyone rubs their nose, touches the pad, rubs their mouth, touches the pad, sneezes on their hand, touches the pad. This is a nurse in Tennessee who spoke for many of us, myself included, when she went to the grocery store recently. Play clip 1.
And up until today, I have managed to not ever have to do a rant video on Facebook, but apparently today is my day. just left the grocery store. And as we all know, the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we're calling it this week, has driven people completely insane. And the woman in line in front of me, just apropos of nothing, just starts shrieking at the poor little guy ringing her up that he has just touched his face and that he therefore must wash his hands. Just shrieking this to the top of her lungs. So I'm assuming she surely to God must be the head of the CDC because she says it with such conviction. And by the way, lady, you're not supposed to touch your face. Doesn't really matter so much if he touches his. I digress. The little guy says, I can't wash my hands right now. She says, I'll wait. Great, well, I'll wait, I guess, lady. He says, I have hand sanitizer. So he takes like a quarter of a little squirt, does this little thing on his hands for about a quarter of a second, which basically would have just served to incite a riot and maybe kill off 2 small, weak germs, to which the head of the CDC in her kitten-covered lab coat nods and fervently agrees that he's, saved the universe with that. He kind of refrains from rolling his eyes, which I think makes him a saint. And then she goes on to whip out her credit card and use the debit pad that every finger-licking, booger-picking, double-digit IQ idiot has touched all day long after going to the bathroom and not washing their hands. And then she just walks on out with her groceries.
Who does she sound like when it comes to the credit card pad? This is a nurse, a healthcare practitioner. What have I been telling you? I don't know. Maybe she's part of Team Buck. Maybe she listens to the show. Or she just knows what I know and all of you know when you think about it. That credit card pad is like a germ hotel. That credit card pad is sitting there like, please touch me so I can make you sick. And yet, at this time, when we have all these precautions and all these things, shelter in place, economy's crumbling, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Not you, Tallulah, you're cool. With all that going on, we still have to touch that stupid OK button like 3 times and then use the little, I don't know what you call it, the little plastic pen thing. And she goes on to tell us her final thoughts on this one. But you see, we're aligned on this. Play clip 2.
Completely oblivious to the fact that everyone who handled those groceries prior to her getting them has left their little touch and trace of germs all over them. That going down the conveyor belt, they probably picked up chicken juice and everything else. But thank God that kid used that quarter of a squirt of Purell. She has saved the day and kept us all safe from the coronavirus. Y'all, it doesn't matter what we do. There's so many stupid people in this world. We're never going to survive anyway. So touch your face. Just touch it. Just touch it. It's all that's left.
A little bit of gallows humor, my friends. We need that these days. We need to be able to also laugh at our situation. That's why when people call it the Wu flu or the Kung flu or the Wuhan virus or the COVID-19 or the SARS-CoV-2, which is the precursor virus before the infection, which is COVID-19, with all these different things, we just need to be able to look at it and say, we got it. We're gonna be all right, and make fun of it sometimes if you can. There are going to be songs about this. There are going to be people who are going to have to create humor in this is a very dark time. There's no question about that. But we need to be able to look at this and laugh a little bit. And I really appreciate what this nurse had to say about how everyone's so on edge. Everyone's so nervous about this. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can do. I mean, if you go around and are terrified of germs, or if you know enough about germs and realize the environments that we all live in, you're coming into contact with staph bacteria, you're coming into contact with MRSA, you're coming into contact with these things all the time, and you're usually fine, but maybe you're not. Any of us can die on any given day for any number of reasons. And I'm not saying that we should have a fatalism like, well, it doesn't matter, just go out there and start, licking random doorknobs or something. It's a horrible idea. But I do mean that we just need to remember we're all on borrowed time, and we're all going to be okay, but we're also all going to die. Not from this virus, just in general. That's a true statement, all right? We all have limited time here. So enjoy yourself to the degree that you can. Enjoy your life right now, even though we're under quarantine and we have these difficulties and we have these challenges. That's something that we should all remember, that there's just only so much you can do. Don't stress that much, and try to laugh. Try to laugh when you can.